Underway. Hello, Jaye Cowle. Welcome to Creative Conversations. How are you?
Really good, thanks. It's really great to be chatting to you today.
No, thank you so much for making yourself available. I know, like all business owners, you're incredibly busy, so I do appreciate your time very much.
Pleasure.
Look, for the next 30 minutes or so, I'm really keen to get a bit of a feel for you, for the business you run, the steps you've taken coming into the starting launch, and I suppose some of the lessons you've learnt along the way, and perhaps those nuggets of bits of advice you might have for other people in a similar position. And then we'll just look at what the future might look like for launch as well, because I know you're hugely ambitious. You're very active online, both from a personal brand and a business brand perspective. So I'm really keen to understand what the future might look like, and see where it takes us along the way. So would you mind just giving me a bit of an overview, a bit of a whistle stop on how you came to be in the position you are now in terms of running launch? Because I know you haven't always been in agency or business ownership in that regard.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. I most people who set up an agency have come from an agency background, and I definitely haven't. So Launch is 10 years old now, as of August. And it came from a place where I needed flexibility. I was marketing, I was the head of sales and marketing of a luxury travel brand in London. And I had children. It was a bit of a shock to me that how much childcare cost in London, in Putney. And I realized that almost all of the money I was earning was going to go straight out into childcare. So I thought, I'll buy a cheese shop in Cornwall, which, by the way, didn't work out. But I Googled businesses for sale in Cornwall because I thought, well, I'll move to be near family. I need to leave London because I can't afford childcare, and my job wasn't going to be able to change for me to be able to change, the cost of that.
Sure.
So I thought, okay, we'll move to Cornwall first of all, live by the sea, and there's got to be a business for sale there. So obviously there's lots of B&Bs for sale, and then I found a cheese shop. Luckily, we did due diligence with an accountant, of course, because you always should. And they gave us very good advice, which was the cheese shop wasn't making any money at all, and it would be really ridiculous knowing nothing about cheese. I mean, how hard can it be to set up in the cheese business? So instead, I went down the employment route and quickly learned that flexibility in Cornwall still wasn't a thing either. So I had to create my own environment in order to be able to carry on working, provide for my children, but also do something that made me want to get out of bed every day. And I took my love of marketing, and I took the need for businesses to affect big change from what they're doing from their marketing, and I found Google Ads. And it doesn't suit everyone. It's quite dry, obviously, but it's results-driven digital marketing, basically. So I reskilled. I mean, it's not quite reskilling, but I added that as a layer to my skill base. I had some brilliant coaching in Cornwall. I was having to pay for the childcare to fund the training, so it was costing double whammy. But from adversity, and I really firmly believe this, the whole diamond analogy of coming from pressure and adversity and needing to make a change, that was the change I made. And for some reason, I call myself an agency from the start. I was basically a glorified freelancer. I don't quite know why I call myself an agency, and I refused to have it as my name as well. I was like, no, it means I'd always have to be attached to it. So I must have in my mind had an idea that I was going to scale it, but I didn't want to employ people. So I thought, no, it'd just be me. I'll create a flexible working environment. And I made it up when I went along. I mean, there were no books. There are books now. There's books that you can buy that not only tell you how to run a business, but how to create the perfect agency. All the maths behind it, all of the resourcing that you need, the balance of cash flow. Even none of that existed, or certainly no one gave me them back in the day. And I just made it up. But affecting change, if that is at the heart, positive change, that was at the heart always of what I wanted to achieve. Any clients I took on, well, it didn't matter what I charged them, as long as I was affecting positive change, because then it's a really nice relationship. I was getting results, they were happy, and I've still got clients to this day.
Have you?
From
10 years on?
years ago. Yeah, there we've got a case
Brilliant.
study coming out, Feather and Stitch.
Yes.
And yeah, so it's, you know, some have fallen by the wayside,
Of course.
and there are stories around every single one of them, and it's just been a really wonderful journey.
And is that still a mantra you stand by, that affecting change?
Yeah, and it is challenging because it
Cool.
means there are some businesses that we can't work with, where either the cost of our services are out of kilter with the positive change that we can affect, or that their products or services aren't competitive enough, aren't good quality enough to be able to actually get results. And the landscape has changed a lot over the last 10 years.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, actually. Clearly, a huge amount of change since 2012 when you started. We were in the throes of coming off the back of the Olympics back then. So Team GB was on a bit of a high, but the digital landscape and the business landscape was very different. So how do you manage to keep pace with it, or in some cases stay ahead of it?
So, and that has been a really interesting change over that last 10 years, where we didn't value data quite as much as we do now. Certainly we didn't value privacy from a digital marketing perspective. You know, you'd be throwing cookies on everyone's device, and you'd be, you know, stalking people relentlessly with remarketing adverts. I think we're moving to a much better place. Some businesses reluctantly moving that way, but we do need to be more targeted with our marketing. And I feel lucky, or I feel I'm in a good position where I have seen pre-digital marketing, because I'm that old, and now there's reliance on digital marketing, and brands that properly embrace the full marketing mix, understanding that not everything can be, well, predictably irrational. You know, humans are predictably irrational. You cannot track every single result from every single click or piece of advertising. And we need to take a step back and go, what is my brand trying to achieve? What is my place in the market? How am I serving my clients, my people, the planet? And it's from that and the stories that are created around that you have the power, rather than buy yoga mat now and just forever doing that as a message.
You talked right at the start there about coming out of adversity to a greater or lesser extent. I'm sure you've been through the full gamut of emotions over those 10 years. Most business owners have. What are the highlights? And I suppose, moreover, what have been some of those lowlights that you've learned from and made changes to the way in which you approach your business now during that time?
So the older I get, I realize that you can't have positive without negative. It's the law of kind of physics. And therefore, with every high, you need to be ready and resilient enough to cope with the lows. So in the 10 years, not only have we all experienced a pandemic, but I also found out I had cancer. And that was an interesting period to be running a business. All of our eggs were in one basket. I was the main breadwinner. I was the only breadwinner. And I was also paying lots of other people's mortgages through being an employer. Yeah. And through those things has come such positivity. It's given me more focus. It's made me realize that the people that you surround yourself with, which I already knew that was important, but you realize how much more people can give, and how mostly in this world, people are wonderful and generous, especially when you treat them well yourself, and karma and all of that does come round. And if you can breed positivity, you get it back in spades full. And so through those moments of adversity, we lost 40% of our clients at the beginning, in the first 2 weeks of the pandemic. You know, it's through that adversity that you can find ways of working around, of coming up with better ideas. And sometimes they happen for a reason, you know, and focusing not on the problems that come from it, but how do you solve them, and what is the bigger lesson that you're trying to be taught. I've become quite philosophical as well.
Sounds it. It does sound it, actually. And is that something that philosophy, is that something that you now clearly impart on your team as well, then, you have around you?
Yeah, so the funny thing is I thought I didn't ever want to. I thought that I'd always had trouble as a manager when I was an employee because I never really got to pick my team. So I always found it challenging. I just wrote myself off. I thought, well, I'm just a bad manager. And then I realized, no, it's about the environment that you create. And agency life is really just about people. We've all got the same tech in paid marketing. We've all got the same tech. We've all got Google ads, Meta ads. We all got the same interfaces, all the same exams that you can sit online. The difference is the people. So I've gone from being a paid media geek to now actually a culture builder, an empowerer of people. And I now do it because of the people, and I do it to continue to grow, to help give them purpose, to help create an environment, which is where our mission to become the happiest performance marketing agency in the world comes from. It was just in the UK. I know it was just going to be the UK, but I was like, let's just do the world.
Why not? Why not?
And that's not about like slapping a smile on your face. It's about creating an environment where people can really thrive. And they won't always, not everyone will always stay at launch, but for that moment where we're custodians of them, we can create that environment, and we can make sure that the clients, the team, all align with our values and be confident in that. And also to keep the conversation going about what that means, because it will evolve over time.
Yeah, sure. So I guess, look, there's an important point here. This isn't just a strap line. This isn't you being glib on something, but this is something you live and breathe. And as a business owner, you see manifesting itself through the team that you now work so closely with. Is that fair to say?
So you said at the beginning of this, I'm active on LinkedIn. That's a kind of a recent thing. That's only since, I don't know, February, March, maybe not even that, this year. And the guys, Jaye, who have helped me work out kind of how to communicate, how to try and engage people, because it doesn't necessarily come naturally. The idea of what I want to say, how I want to treat people, that positivity, making people happy, like I'm a bit of a clown, that is true. But how do you communicate that? I'm not a professional in communication. And what is interesting is when they come and film the team, their feedback is, wowzers, I kind of expected it just to be a PR story, but no, that this is your culture. And we're a hybrid company. We're not all office based. It is possible to build a culture and to encourage relationships between team members without needing to always be in an office.
Yeah, that was something I wanted to pick up on, because I remember when we first met, you talked about the remote nature of some of the members of your team. And I'm keen to understand how you managed to achieve that balance between those that are based in the office and those that maybe further afield. I remember you saying you had people in the north of England that were working very happily as part of the team, and clearly very much not in Devon as well. So how do you manage to harmonise that within the business?
So when I set up Launch, and I did then start to, I think it was about 2 years in, I started to employ people. I was keen that it was the right people, that it was people who could bring something to the party, who ultimately were better than me. But I perhaps didn't put that on the job description. Just make sure you're better than me. But it's important. I was going out selling the company. I was selling our services, and I never wanted to be selling Coca-Cola and then delivering people Panda Pop. It always has to be, you always have to be delighting and improving on what your sales pitch is. So I found great people. Now, I was based in Cornwall at the time. So it is challenging because there is a smaller number of people in Cornwall. You're kind of in a peninsula there. So it was hard to find enough people to employ. I'm now based in Devon. We're southwest wide. But I've had people work for me in Hertfordshire, in like you say, Leeds or Wakefield. I better not say Leeds. It's definitely Wakefield.
Okay,
and
right.
And so we've always been kind of hybrid from the start, way before that was actually even that was terminology that was used every day.
So you're ahead of the curve in that regard.
And not on purpose, just because of proximity. And therefore baked into our DNA has been this merging of online and offline. So we used to have a Google Meet window open on one of the computers all day long, and you would just pop in and out of that meeting to say hi. And often we would have that open and you'd be working away, you might even have headphones in, and that person, then you felt like you were in an office with them. I'm not sure what the carbon impact of that was, but it was perhaps before we knew, knew of what that was. But it meant that we always felt connected. So although we were in a bedroom or an office somewhere, we felt kind of constantly connected. And that has just been baked through everything we do. We've got a thing that we launched this week called Icebreaker. It's all kind of within the Teams interface. It's like a little app you can add on, and it will match you with someone else in the company for you to have a one-to-one with that you wouldn't ordinarily have. And the idea is over a year, I'll be able to have 2 icebreakers with every single person in the company to find out, to not ask work questions, find out kind of behind the scenes.
Yes.
And just ask them, how are you? How are things? Is there anything, that
great.
You've got this opportunity, and I don't know, they might have an amazing knowledge of ballroom dancing or something we can share and talk about strictly. It's just to keep that communication not just about problem resolving or issues, or it keeps a whole range of communication going. And it's working well.
Okay, so clearly the employee engagement seems to be very much high on the agenda for you. How does that then reflect on the clients that you work with? We talked about the fact the landscape has changed over 10 years. Probably the level of understanding of paid for digital media may have changed in that time as well. How do you see the role in which you perform with your clients in terms of how launch can add value and affect that change for your clients? And then how is that, there's a whole series of questions here, I'm realizing. How's that then reflected across your team on a consistent basis so that you're all delivering on the same mission and vision for those clients?
So alignment and being able to communicate what that vision and mission is to the team is crucial. And we have quarterly get-togethers as well as weekly meetings to be able to keep us focused on what that mission is. And our mission is to help clients, is to bring that human element of paid media. Now, every client is going to need slightly different help. What success looks like to them is going to be unique to their business. The bit I haven't quite reconciled is how much do the clients care that our mission is to be the happiest? I can only answer the clients that I speak to that are with us now, where you look at our drum reviews, our client drum reviews on recommended agencies, and we're 9.3, and you hear what they speak back, and it's all about how the team bring, a proactive. Proactive is one of the biggest reasons that a client will leave an agency. It will be that they enjoy working with us. But beyond that, results are really important. And it's a continual effort that we put in to empower our team to feel confident to be able to ask challenging questions, because performance media is the dry end, and often the end, maybe our clients, you read some of the reports, they're quite dry, they're metric driven. How can we bring that to life, and how can we take what the client is trying to achieve and help them meet that through paid media? It's a continual effort. I don't know if we've got it 100% right yet. What I do know is that we've now got 27 staff. We're, on our way to hit 2 million this year. We must be doing something right, but it's something I continually work. I work with the team. We've got, we're doing in-person training sessions now and about resilience, and I think there's going to be a tough time, especially in e-commerce, and being able to help our clients navigate that without being embarrassed to say, I hear you, I hear that it's tough for you right now. Here are things that we're doing, but what more can we do to support you? That's, people don't often like to ask difficult questions, so we help our team get comfortable with that.
Okay, brilliant. What's clear, speaking to you now and as we have done in the past, is that innate drive you have within yourself. Where does that come from? What inspires you, and what keeps you pushing forward?
I don't know. It has just always that I have always been kind of known as a positive person, and I can remember my my PE teacher many years ago calling me Smiler. And I'm obsessed with Peloton now, and my Peloton username is always smiling. And there's just something about the energy of a person that you can change the outcome of a meeting just the way that you act. And walking into a meeting smiling immediately has your percentage chance of then having a positive meeting goes way through the roof. This is not practice, it's just the way I've been. Where I'm trying to then bring it to work is to help people realize that they do have that power on people, that human beings can affect positive change just through smiling more or just being more aware. I think the language that people use now is EQ or empathy.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of becoming a bit obsessed with positive intelligence and understanding, though, that EQ isn't about like you've got a high score, that there is a cost to the high, that it's about balance. It's about where high empathy can also then have a negative impact on strategic decision making. I think the more we can understand ourselves as human beings and use that to power what we do, loads of the manual tasks will be taken away by machines, and that's brilliant because we can then apply creativity. And I always would have said I wasn't a creative person, but actually it's not about whether you can draw or not. It's about problem solving and thinking a bit outside the box about, you know, how to come at a business problem. That is actual true creativity. I did find out the other day, my dad had an advertising agency when I was young. He's no longer with us now, but he was a little bit Mad Men-esque, Fleet Street, you know, central London. And I came across some books the other day where it was a campaign, kind of top 100 advertising agencies, and there was his agency in there above Ogilvy in the rankings. And I do think, although he didn't really fully understand that we have got an advertising agency, an advertising agency would say we're not advertising, we're performance, but it is, you know, advertising in the now. And he taught me, treat people well, and, you know, make sure you employ people always better than you, and treat them well. And you'll enjoy, even if there are times where it'll be up and down, you'll enjoy it more. And so that's kind of what I've always done.
Yeah, really wise words. You said when you were exploring Cornwall, looking at cheese shops and various other businesses, that there weren't many points of reference on starting and running an agency, a creative business. Now there are, of course, but who do you turn to? Who do you turn to for that bit of advice when you might be feeling a bit stuck or a bit isolated? Is it people that have either been through the process? Is it your peers, other people that are in a similar situation? Is it people from outside the industry? Where do you turn to?
5 years ago, probably nowhere. Like I felt quite isolated then, and I don't know if it's just now that there are more agencies, or that proximity to London doesn't matter so much now that you can do everything virtually. But I would say all of those. I mean, you and I have had some great conversations, you know, and your experience then feeds into my experience, and lots of other agency owners tend to be, you know, this frenemies kind of thing. They tend to be brilliant entrepreneurs who were maybe at one point you know, a practitioner of whatever it is that they're delivering, and now they are just purveyors of people. You know, and therefore you can have loads of commonality between, you know, an analytics agency versus a PR agency. So I do love hanging out with agency owners, and that has created a whole ecosystem of kind of trusted partners. I'm lucky to be part of the Google Executive Circle, which is for the top accelerating agencies in the whole of the UK, the top 30. I feel sometimes that I'm batting above my average there, but I'll take it, and I totally accepted the invitation. But I'm with technical competitors who have got, you know, 500 staff, and we all have the same problem. we do, because
Yeah.
theirs might be on a bigger scale, but it's always, it's always people, new business, technology, we all have the same challenges. So I wish I'd known about mentors sooner in my life,
Sure.
and I wish I'd probably asked sooner
Yeah.
for a mentor. I actually was a mentor before I got one.
Okay, right.
Which was that's really good learning,
I'm sure. Yeah.
to do that, and always give back. People should always, if you're always taking, you miss the biggest part of the joy,
Yeah.
but I don't get it right all the time.
Well,
it is
none of us do, surely. Surely none of us do. And if anyone says they do, I think I might call them on that.
Yeah, exactly. And then, you can always be blindsided by things, but I think that there are things like, Helm, which used to be called the Supper Club, and there are weekly virtual coffees. There's the Like-Hearted Leaders group who meet on Friday mornings. There's the Agency Nomic community, and through all of these connections, you get introduced. We were introduced through Agency Nomics, and there's a lot of kind of sharing and generosity there. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I'd completely concur. Look, there's been some absolute nuggets in there. So for any aspiring creative business agency owners, however they want to position themselves, apart from the words that your father passed on to you, what would you say now to somebody that's in a similar position that's considering making that step?
Apart from the people aspect of it, I'd say be very clear about what it is that you do, your proposition. And that can be challenging, because it means it can be limiting. You can potentially niche down too far. But if you can describe what you do in a short sentence, you are much more likely to be remembered. So make sure your proposition is nice and tight.
Beautiful. Let me close the circle then. You talked about the start of launch. What does the future of launch look like for you and those 27 people that are now the happiest search agency in the world?
Well, we're on a mission to be. I'm not saying yet. What is the future? We're really enjoying getting to know each other. We've gone from being 7 people to 12 people to 17 to now 27, and we're really enjoying getting to know each other. I think there will be some sort of sustainability, B Corp, understanding the carbon impact of your paid media and about your digital footprint. I think that potentially is maybe where we'll end up. But right now, we're just enjoying riding the wave of how brands brands that want to win online really can now, if they've got a good story and they've got a good customer base. And we love helping them.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Jaye Cowle, that has been really interesting. Thank you. I really enjoyed it.
Pleasure.
And your dog slept throughout. I think it changed position once and then just resumed its sleeping position. So thank you both, I should probably say.
Pleasure.
Okay, all the best.